Hello and welcome to this exciting session for the virtual European Risk Management Awards Week. For those of you who don't know me, I am Mathieu Rouault, CEO of Maxis Global Benefits Network. We are sponsoring the Emerging Risk Initiative of the Year category this year, and I'm delighted to introduce the next session. On behalf of all of us at Maxis, we congratulate the risk manager finalists of this category. I hope you enjoy the webinar, and don't forget to tune into the awards presentation ceremony, which is taking place this Friday, 11th of December at 4:30 CET. Enjoy, stay safe, and all the best to the finalists.
Let me start by, I think, talking about the challenges that we wanted to address to set the context. The main one was that we needed to be more innovative and dynamic in the way that we approach risk management. One of the challenges, as anyone knows, with risk management is that it can be seen as just another business process. I'm of the view it needs to be a value adding at all times. So we had a very robust process in place. We were doing quarterly reviews. We have risk registers, very similar to what many organisations have. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're managing risk effectively. It means, yes, you know what your risks are, but it needs to go further by ensuring the risks are linked to strategy, that we could, in a very fast changing world, identify those risks that were coming towards us and respond accordingly. And when you're doing that at on a three monthly basis, there's a possibility that you might miss something. So we wanted to enhance the speed at which we adapted and identified to risks that were emerging. But the other challenge was ensuring that we had a process in place that encouraged people to take risk. We want to innovate, we want to grow. I'm of the view that risk management sits very comfortably with growth mindset. And in order to do that and to grow, we needed to ensure that the program gave our employees and leaders at all levels the capabilities and, more importantly, the cultural mindset to drive that change, take risks, be prepared to fail, but do it in a smart way. So if we look at the key elements of the program, we needed to put in place practices that would encourage and actually require the discussion of risk in our business unit areas on a monthly basis. And that's a pretty dramatic mind shift from going from quarterly to monthly. So the routines had to be developed. We had to educate our leaders, our risk sponsors across the business on what did that mean. And really it was about taking the risk dialogue into the strategy discussion, into the business discussion, understanding what's happening with the business on a higher frequency, linking the risk discussion to the projected outcomes and what could potentially stop us and derail us from reaching our business objectives. That was one component of it. The second element revolved around, and the core element of the program, was about that education. We have a term, we call it smart risk taking. And smart risk is about knowing the risks that are coming, but also encouraging our people that if we're going to grow, we've got to take a risk. We've got to be innovative. We've got to take on new challenges. But there's things you need to do and there's things you can't do. So it was about creating that mindset.
The key elements of the project were to develop out a discipline that enabled us to take advantage of the exponential change that was taking place in the world. We were seeing technology and social change moving very, very quickly. And Argo were looking at this and asking the question, how best can we benefit this and how best can we defend ourselves against it in a very practical way that aligns to our business strategy and the products that we offer to the public. The challenges that you always face with emerging threats and opportunities is that there's not enough evidence about where they're going to go at the time. And therefore, you have to make some fairly big assumptions. You have to do quite a lot of research and you have to make sure they're completely relevant to your business that you're actually dealing with. So in other words, it's not helpful to spend a lot of time and energy on something that isn't going to impact your business in some way. But that was a big challenge. And the way we got over that was we identified experts within the Argo company And we asked them to sort of provide their own research and input into that process. And also we started with a vetting exercise to ask, is this relevant enough to us? Could we see this impacting the footprint of our company going forward? So that was the beginning of that process. And then from that, we looked to develop a model that looked at every single product that Argo issue out and how a set of disruptive factors we'd identified, to what degree did the disruptive factors influence those products and whether or not they were going to be the right products for the customers in 2, 3, 5 years' time. The emerging risk initiative that we designed in 2019 definitely came into play in 2020 because of COVID-19. So we created this environment, we created this triangle or pyramid where I sat at the top and identified major threats and opportunities, major disruptors that were coming along. And then on one side, the head of innovation identified whether or not that would be an advantage, whether we could take advantage of that disruption, and whether Argo actually could improve its commercial footprint, whether it could offer better products to its clients to deal with that upcoming disruption. And then on the other side, our head of exposure looked at this and asked the question, is Argo exposed to this disruption? Do we have business plans that might make us grow into it? We looked at the growth plans for all of our products and all of our businesses. We asked the question, are we looking to grow in an area where there might be greater disruption? And then we created in the middle of that triangle a set of tools that enabled us to do proper analytical activity and arrive at some reasonable assumptions about what the world might look like in 2, 3, 5 years' time if this disruptor occurred. And when 2020 came along, in fact, very early in February 2020, we recognized COVID-19 as being one of those big disruptive factors. And we were able to then engage that machinery, and it put us ahead of the game a bit in terms of our ability to be resilient, to adapt on the front line to what COVID-19 was doing to our customers, to our clients, to our own internal operation. And that enabled us to be more resilient. And going through 2020, we were impacted just like every other business, but we were impacted less to some degree because we were able to employ this. And we had a better informed view of where it was going to impact our investments, our products, our operating model quite early on. So we were able to implement changes quite early on in the process. And 2020 has definitely proven that the framework was very effective. And I think we're seeing lots of CEOs and we're seeing lots of boards and non-executive directors looking to their risk teams, and they're asking them to strengthen up their emerging risk and disruption frameworks so that companies can meet the next wave of this kind of disruption.
Well, in my research, the first challenge was to achieve a result, because when you begin a research, you are never sure about the results. And then when I did it, the next challenges was to convince people in my organization that that solution wasn't just a theoretical solution, but a practical one. It's difficult to fight against the legacy and what is established in your organization. Well, the key elements of my application are, first, a new key risk indicator, the visibility factor, a linear and easy to understand indicator. Then a method to be able to summarize a global scenario of risk, for instance, a project, by giving their impact and probability. And third, a new way to estimate the cost of the whole risk scenario, but by providing an enlargement factor to be able to achieve an 85 confidence level to avoid overrun. Those are the three key elements. Well, the key elements of my application are three. First one is the new key risk indicator, the visibility factor. Then a summarizing method based on the visibility factor to be able to obtain the overall risk for any scenario. For instance, a project expressed as a single equivalent risk event with its impact and likelihood. And last but not least, a simple method to calculate the overall cost of the whole scenario, for instance, the project, with an 85% confidence level.